welcome to another episode of Intimacy After Ostomy podcast. I'm your host, Trina Ricketts, and today I am going to be talking about the 7 most common fears that we have about intimacy after ostomy surgery. And we're going to jump right into it, and I'll share some of my own experiences as we go through. But the number one fear, and these are in no particular order, but the first one I'm going to tell you about is the fear that our partners will find our bodies unattractive. And this could be our current partners, or if we're single, it could be potential future partners, or whoever we want to have naked fun with in the future. And this is a very strong fear that most of us experience because we obviously want to be attractive to someone who we're going to get naked with. And having a bag on our stomach makes us feel like there's this big glaring object just taking away from all the rest of the potential beauty. And then if we have insecurities about other parts of our body, which most of us do, then we add that onto the bag. But the bag is kind of like the most shocking thing about us for many of us. And this fear that our partner will find our body unattractive can actually be so strong that it will prevent us from getting naked in front of our partner. But attraction is so much more complex than what your body looks like. It's about energy and warmth and confidence and presence and humor and things that you can't see, but things that you actually feel when you're in the presence of someone. That's where attraction really starts. And that's why when you find someone who's attracted to you, they are not going to care about the bag. If they're attracted to you with your clothes on, then they'll be attracted to you with your clothes off, because that's how attraction works. It's not just a physical thing. And if it is just a physical thing, that's kind of shallow, but sometimes that's even enough. Personally, I feel confident enough, even with my ostomy bag, that if I were to have a one-night stand, which is not something that I do, but if I were to have a one-night stand with someone, I wouldn't feel insecure about my bag. And the reason why is because I think I'm beautiful, just the way I am, bag and all. And if someone's attracted to me enough to want to get naked with me, then I don't see why that would be a problem for them. And I assure you that it won't be for you either. Now, it's a little more complex when you're in a relationship because your partner's been through so much with you. And that is another fear that we'll get into in a few minutes. But the fear that your body is unattractive is a myth you need to bust, because your body is just as attractive as you make it or as you allow yourself to be. You know, if you need to do a few things to make yourself feel a little better, like I like to tan. Some people like to spray tan. I like to go in the tanning booth. Maybe you want to get your nails done or fit into something really cute and sexy to wear during your intimacy with someone. These are extra ways to help you feel a little more confident. But when you actually accept your stoma and accept your bag and your body the way it is, then you will hopefully no longer have this fear. Now, moving on to fear number 2, the fear that something embarrassing will happen. I really struggled with this fear. The fear of the bag farting, the fear of activity, stoma activity in the throes of intimacy, the fear of what if it leaks? What if something happens? And these are valid fears because these things can happen. The bag might fart. There might be some activity. And there can be a leak during intimacy. But the interesting thing, when you talk to ostomates who've been around for a while and who've had these experiences during intimacy, is that they're rarely the catastrophe that we expect it to be. Usually our partner isn't really fazed. Usually the intimacy just keeps going after the embarrassing situation. And usually it's no big deal. The best thing that I can tell you to do in a situation where you are faced with an embarrassing moment is to act like it's no big deal. That lets your partner know that it's no big deal and that they don't have to worry about how this is going to impact your whole entire intimacy experience. If it's like, say, a big leak and you got to walk away and go have a shower together or apart or whatever, it can still be lighthearted, funny, oops, and you can get away with it. It doesn't have to be devastating, horrible, embarrassing. And it would be my hope that you have a very supportive, loving partner if something like that happens. And even supporting lovers. I had a situation where I had a lover, and during an intimate experience, there was a little bit of tearaway in my bag. And I noticed, thankfully, before there was a big leak, but I had to say, I've got a hole here in my bag and I need to go and change it right in the middle of engaging in intimacy. And didn't bother him at all. He just patiently waited until I came back, and then we re-engaged in our intimate behavior. So it can be something handled very smoothly and easily if it happens. But there's also a lot of things that you can do to prevent embarrassing things like that from happening or minimize them. I like to wear a compressive, is that a word? A belly band that compresses my belly and holds my stoma down so that when it makes noise, it's very muffled. Sounds like my stomach is growling. And it also holds my bag in place so it won't get pulled away or torn while I'm in the throes of passion. So those are just two examples of things that you can do to minimize your fears. So look at what your fears are and then figure out ways to address each of those fears so that you're not scared. And then understand that even if the situation that you're scared of happens, you can handle it best by acting like it's no big deal, having a sense of humor about life and what it keeps throwing at us, and just moving on and not letting it devastate you or destroy you. Now, fear number 3, my partner will reject me. And this goes along for single people with my future potential partners will reject me when they find out I have the bag. And it can increase a lot of anxiety around the idea of dating and the idea of disclosing to someone you're dating that you have a bag. And I have a lot of experience with this, and I give advice on it all the time because I'm currently single and I'm dating, and I have told a few of the people I've dated about my ostomy bag. And so far, thankfully, it's been a non-issue. And the reason it's a non-issue is because when someone is attracted to you, the bag doesn't matter. So if you're worried about being rejected because you think you're unattractive, don't worry about the bag. I mean, you could, if you have a see-through bag, I'd maybe cover that up. Or if your bag hangs really low, I'd maybe clip it up or put something over it. Like there are things you can do to deal with the bag. I'm not saying just ignore the bag. You know, if there's a way to make yourself more attractive with the bag by making the bag less unattractive, do that. You know, personally, like I don't want to show the contents of my bag to an intimate partner. That doesn't feel safe and fun to me. And I wouldn't want to be with someone who did that to me as well. So have that kind of, I look at it, it's just having the respect, to give your partner the respect of not showing them the contents of your bag. So put a bag cover over it if you have that kind of bag that you can see through, for instance. But really, the point is that if your partner does reject you, you don't want to internalize that as something that's wrong with you. If a person rejects us because of the bag, now, and in this case, they really say right out, your bag is disgusting, you're disgusting, I can't stand it, I can't handle it, or I'm sorry, but I just can't handle the bag. If someone is really truly going to reject you because of your bag, then that just goes to show that they're at a very low level of evolution. They are unevolved. Intimacy for them is at a very surface, very shallow level. And I feel sorry for those people. And they're probably not the right people for us, ostomates, who've been through hell and back to be having intimate relations with. People like that won't ever reach the level that we have because their life experience hasn't enabled them to grow and become someone who knows what really actually matters, not the bag. So if someone does reject you, which I think is more rare than common, that person is, they're broken. That person is broken. Now, if someone is rejecting you, it may not be because of the bag. It could be that you just aren't compatible, or you remind them of someone in the past that they dated that they didn't like, or you said something that they don't agree with. Who knows? There could be any reasons. They could be dating someone still from their past and haven't given that up. And they're just, out dating, trying to convince themselves to meet someone new, but they never take the plunge because they're still so attached to the person in the past. I could come up with so many reasons why someone might reject me, and it's not because of my bag. So we have to differentiate when we feel like we're being rejected. Are they rejecting us because of the flaws that we believe we have, or are they rejecting us because we're just not compatible and they've got their own stuff going on? And I prefer to see it as we're just not compatible. And if they're really rude in any way, then I dodged a bullet. So rejection is not that scary to me anymore. And I hope it won't be scary to you when you think about the fact that someone rejecting you is just teaching you that they're not your person. And so you can move on and hopefully one day find your right person. If you're in a relationship and your partner is that wrong person, you've got some decisions to make. Now, fear number 4, sex might hurt or it might be dangerous. And these are absolutely valid concerns as well, of course, because our bodies have been altered inside and out. And therefore, it can have impacts and consequences to whether sex feels good or not, or whether we can even do it at all. Nerve damage can interfere with orgasms and erections and urine and all kinds of things, nerve damage. Uh, Actual rectum removal can cause a vagina to tilt until scar tissue builds up, and that can make sex painful. Just the fact that there's inner parts of us that haven't completely healed for a woman can make penetration painful. And I've heard that even women who don't have rectum removal, like me, will sometimes experience pain during sex after ostomy surgery. And men face their own challenges as well. So these are valid fears and valid concerns. And the best thing that I can suggest in this situation is that you want to make sure you're with a loving, supportive partner or loving, supportive lover, and go slow. So by the time I was ready to try having actually penetrative sex after my ostomy surgery, I wasn't in a relationship anymore. But I did take a lover for a time, a wonderful man who was very gentle and kind and careful and willing to go slow and allow me just to see what can I do? What is it like? I really wanted to document my journey and see how everything went because I had looked for this information and I couldn't find it anywhere. So that was a wonderful opportunity for me. And I really encourage people in relationships, or if you have someone that you could safely experiment with and you feel comfortable doing that. And I know a lot of people that goes against their moral code or their religion, and I respect that 100%. But if you are ready to start trying penetrative sex or other things that involve that area of your body, then I just suggest that you go very slow and you stop if it starts to hurt. It doesn't have to be that scary as long as you have the right partner. That is, I think, the most important thing. So, fear number 5, my partner will be uncomfortable touching me. And I actually went through this because when I had my permanent ostomy surgery, I was with a partner at the time. And I remember him saying to me one time, well, actually, he touched my ostomy bag and like went to hug me or something. And I said, "Don't touch my bag." And he said, "Well, last time you said it was okay if I touched it." And I didn't remember having said that before, but that just goes to show how my mood can change and how our moods can change as we're learning and healing our body. Sometimes I would feel more protective of my bag and my stoma and that area of my body. And other times I would want to give my partner permission to feel safe and comfortable around my bag and my body. So it's a bit of a roller coaster. We go through these processes over time and we can kind of go up and down as we go. So don't judge yourself or beat yourself up if You feel like you're starting to heal and then you regress a little. That's totally normal. But it also is an example of how our partners can be worried about touching us the wrong way or doing something that makes us uncomfortable or insecure or hurting us, or the fact that they've spent all this time being a caregiver to us and how that has changed our relationship, because it used to be more about a partnership and a flirtatious, fun, kinky, loving, sexy relationship has turned into caregiver, patient. I can't do anything. I can barely be touched for months, maybe years. And then now we need to try and rebuild. So, coming from the perspective of the person who's been through all that health shit, and then also the perspective of the caregiver. Yeah, that's very understandable on both sides that there might be fears about engaging in intimacy and how that might impact, especially the person who's gone through everything. But we're over here worrying about our partner and how it's affected them and how it affects how they see us. So how do we go from like having that caregiver patient type of power imbalance or struggle or reciprocal loving relationship, whatever it is, to having attraction and flirtation and wanting to engage in intimacy again? It's really hard to want to engage in intimacy when you have all these kinds of fears and when your body's been through the ringer. So my partner will be uncomfortable touching me. That is normal, understandable fear to have. And I think there might be some uncomfortableness that does come along with it while we're learning and relearning each other's bodies and relearning how we do this intimacy thing with the bag. And this is much like what I said before about taking penetrative sex really slow. I would just take this very slow as well. Each time you have an intimate experience with your partner, you will become more and more comfortable with them, and they will become more and more comfortable with you. And I say it in probably almost every podcast, and I always recommend naked hugs. I like exchanging massages and then doing naked hugs. I have this whole planned out sequence of events that I like to engage in when it comes to intimacy. I'm not a huge fan of spontaneous intimacy. I like the long, drawn out, cherished. And I'm not talking about having penetrative sex for hours. I'm talking about flirting, teasing, talking, connecting, all that stuff that, whew, it's getting hot in here just talking about it. That's the stuff that I like the most. And it comes with scheduled intimacy more often than spontaneous. I don't know why I just got off on that tangent, but maybe it's because the next fear, fear number 6, is that intimacy will never feel natural again. And I think when people say that, they mean that it won't feel spontaneous because we gotta go empty that bag and wash our hands and maybe put on a belly band or whatever it is that we like to do before we engage in intimacy now that we got the bag. But I don't know about you, but I had a little routine before the bag too. I wanted to brush my teeth and clean myself off, maybe have a shower. I think this is just one more thing added to the routine. And it might feel a little unnatural at first because having an ostomy bag is unnatural to us at first. But once we're used to it, it just becomes a part of our sexy routine. And I don't think we need to make it a bigger fear than it has to be. And we can still engage in spontaneous intimacy, but we may not want to go all the way during those, or maybe we do it in different ways. There's so many options. We shouldn't allow ourselves to be stopped from spontaneous intimacy because of our bags. I have a system, the way that I manage my bags, so that most of my stoma activity happens at night when I'm sleeping. And that does mean I get up to go to the bathroom once or twice a night, but it gives me a lot of freedom during the day. So if spontaneous intimacy was to occur during the day, it probably wouldn't be such a bad thing. So let's kick that fear to the curb. Fear number 7, I'm no longer a sexual being. Oh, I fought this one. This is a hard one. It's like when you feel that you're not worthy of being desired anymore. The bag makes me undesirable, that which makes me unworthy of being a sexual being. And it isn't just emotional. It can happen in our body too, where our arousal and our horniness just turns off. It just turns off. This is it. We've realized, no, this is not a body that's made for sex anymore or for intimacy. And therefore, I'm a non-sexual being and I have to just give up on ever having that in my life again. And it can be heartbreaking, or sometimes we become very numb and dissociated from it because it's too heartbreaking for us to deal with mentally. So we push it down and we just become a person who doesn't look for or try to attract intimacy into our lives anymore. We've just given up. And that's what I that's why I do this work, is to prevent people like you, if you're one of them, from giving up on intimacy. Because just because society has made us believe that you have to be young, you have to be perfect skin, perfect body, perfect ability, no disabilities, like everything has to be perfect, doesn't mean that every person doesn't feel desire and feel the need for intimacy. I have a coaching client with cerebral palsy, completely mentally all there, but he's got muscular issues in his body and he desires intimacy just as much as anyone else. And yet, in our society, most healthcare workers and most people in general wouldn't even think about how can we make sure he's getting his intimacy needs met? Because we've desexualized people with disabilities. And as a person with a disability, we can internalize that desexualization of our disabled bodies. So I want you to try to think about other people with disabilities who you know for a fact still desire intimacy, need intimacy, want intimacy, other people with disabilities who are in relationships where they're getting intimacy. And then ask yourself, why would you not need intimacy? Why would you not need to feel desired? If these other people with these other disabilities deserve intimacy and are worthy of it, then why are you not worthy of it? The truth is, you are. We all are. We're all worthy of intimacy. The only thing that would make us unworthy would have nothing to do with our disabled bodies. It would have to do with our character. If we're shitty people, then we're not very worthy. If we treat people like crap, if we're expecting intimacy from someone that we treat with hostility every day, then we're not worthy. But it has nothing to do with our bags. You are not broken for having these fears. These fears are completely natural. The reason we have these fears is because we use them to protect us. After everything we've been through, we want to protect ourselves from being hurt or traumatized any more than we already have been. But these fears can hold us back and stop us from experiencing the intimacy that we really are worthy of and that we deserve to have in our lives. And so I want to ask you to look at your main fears. Really nail them down specifically. What are you specifically afraid of? And is there a solution to any of those fears? Like, that's just simple to enact. Like my fear of my bag coming loose during an intimacy encounter. I can just wear a belly band that will hold it in place. That will reduce that from happening. Also muffles noises, bag noises. So there are solutions to some of these fears that are really simple. And for a lot of the other fears, they're more about what are we telling ourselves? What story are we telling ourselves about our bodies and our bags and our worth? And if that's the case with you, then you're going to have to do some inner work and make some deep realizations about who you truly are and why you deserve so much more than what you're allowing to have in your life. So stop letting your fears hold you back. And if you need a little help, reach out and send me a message. We can talk about how I can help you. Now go to my website and get my free Intimacy After Ostomy Guide, and you will be added to my newsletter. And each week you will get information like this in your email inbox. Till next week.